Nothing that results from human progress is achieved with unanimous consent. And those who are enlightened before the others are condemned to pursue that light in spite of others. There was a time when the New World didn't exist. The sun set in the west on an ocean where no man had dared to venture. And beyond that, infinity.
Hello and welcome to TR Radio with me, Rupert Smith. Truthriders.com is a new website which attempts to bridge realities, Earth and space, physical and spiritual, politics and exopolitics, conspiracy and fact. We exist to help awaken the sleeping and help the awakening realize that they are not alone. You are never alone. You're not a conspiracy theorist, nor a crazy person, nor just someone with a vivid imagination. This great awakening to our physical and spiritual reality is happening, and you are playing a very special part in it. So on the show today, we are very honoured to have Dr. Alfred Webre, author, lawyer, member of the District of Columbia Bar, futurist, peace activist, environmentalist activist, and space activist who promotes the ban of space weapons. He was a co-architect of the Space Preservation Treaty and the Space Preservation Act that was introduced to the US Congress by Congressman Dennis Kucinich. Alfred writes for the Seattle Exopolitics Examiner and has an internet TV channel called Exopolitics TV. His book, Exopolitics, Politics, Government and Law in the Universe, first defined the formal field of exopolitics, the science of relations between intelligent civilizations in the universe. So welcome to the show, Alfred.
Well, thank you. And I really want to congratulate you and support you on the definition of your program, because I think that the area that you're focusing on, which is the multidimensionality of our reality and our need to express that and to bridge that, such as you're trying to do now, is at the heart of the positive transformation of the planet.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, great. I do admire you. You have a similar way of thinking to me. You look analytically and scientifically into what people may refer to as fringe phenomena, but with an open mind. So you use empirical evidence, but also your heart, Alfred. I do admire that.
Oh, good enough.
Yeah. Alfred, you were a member of the Governor's Emergency Task Force on Earthquake Preparedness for the state of California between 1980 and 1982. We have an extraordinary increase in earthquakes and other disasters over the past few years. Of course, nobody is going to forget the Fukushima megaquake and the nuclear plant event. You recently talked on Exopolitics TV to independent scientist Lauren Moret, who stated that the Fukushima HAARP tectonic nuclear attack was done by an international racketeering war crimes network within the US. So essentially, CIA, Department of Energy, BP on behalf of City of London bankers. So, wow, please could you start by explaining to the listener a bit about what HAARP is and then give us your views on this revelation by Lauren Moret?
Yes. Wow. Yeah, you've really spanned there almost 30 years.
I know, right? Yes. Of course, I'd like you to kind of explain, but I know, trying to keep it as brief as you can. I know it's quite a hard thing to do.
No, sure. Now, actually, you could have gone back even 10 years prior to that, to 1973.
Okay.
When I wrote my first book in the area, which was The Age of Cataclysm, which was the first book to integrate parapsychology and the study of psychic phenomena and consciousness with earth sciences, seismology and geology. And it's called The Age of Cataclysm. And it was that book that led to my appointment on then Governor Jerry Brown's Governor's Emergency Task Force on Earthquake Preparedness. And to see how it's come full circle, Governor Jerry Brown is reelected and is now Governor of California again.
Wow, yeah.
So things come in full circle. Well, and some 30 years after I wrote that book, in which I took things like the Edgar Cayce prophecies and the biblical prophecies and show how they could be matched up to geology. I wrote an update of that called Earth Changes, a Spiritual Approach, which you can just Google that. It's a free book on the internet. And that shows how one could use the scripts of the Edgar Cayce prophecies and the biblical prophecies and other sacred texts of this time of great earth changes as almost a script, using these new exotic weapons that use natural systems. They're called environmental weapons and environmental warfare, and use that as a script to engage in sort of environmental warfare with psychological warfare against the human population, which is exactly what's occurring now. Now, the HAARP chemtrail system is actually a three-component weapon, and it's been described as the ultimate weapon of war, and it's that class of environmental weapons which uses actual natural systems as a weapon. And it was developed, these are theories was developed by the Jason group of scientists of the National Security State starting around the late 1950s. A man, James McDonald, wrote one of the key books in this area. And these were all the theoreticians who back in the 50s said, look, we can turn the planet into a weapon of war, and then we can destroy entire nations and people, and no one will be the wiser. And that's exactly what's occurring now. And HAARP has three components. It has a space-based component, which is the weaponized ionosphere, which is that's the level of the upper atmosphere, which is right next to space, and it's energized, and it can be focalized and used as a tectonic weapon, to create earthquakes, used as a weather weapon, to create weather warfare. You throw cyclones or hurricanes at people, and we'll get to examples. Then there's a second component, which is the atmosphere-based component. And that's spraying of aerosols, and began in earnest in 1999. The atmosphere has been converted because of the aerosols, otherwise known as chemtrails.
Yeah.
That is also a bioweapon, because what's in the chemtrails themselves are toxic metals, which are extremely toxic to the human race. And so their purpose is part of the depopulation program to get rid of the elderly, the infirm, and to make the human race very ill, which is the indices of illnesses are going up greatly now, and to make them forgetful, distracted, mind controlled.
Yeah, sure.
And the third component is the ground-based stations, which are disguised as research facilities. And there are about 17 or so HAARP facilities around the world, and there are even mobile HAARP facilities now. The U.S. Navy has a HAARP facility, which is seaborne. And so you have this great disguised weapon, which for the past 10 years has been selectively used to carry out earthquake warfare and weather warfare. For example, on the scale of weapons of mass destruction, a couple of examples. One is the Haiti earthquake of January 2010.
Yeah.
We call that the Vancouver Olympics earthquake, because they always set off these kind of natural earthquake bombs around Olympics in order to disrupt the world mind.
Yes, sure. Yeah.
there 200,000 people were killed more than at Hiroshima and at Nagasaki, with a degree of targeting precision that, you can aim HAARP extremely precisely. So the epicenter of the earthquake was right in Port-au-Prince, because the intent was to destroy Haiti as a society, to destroy the government, and the epicenter of these organizations. The reason was that the government was refusing to give Rothschild companies control over gold and oil petroleum deposits that have been discovered under the island of Hispaniola belonging to Haiti, because they didn't want foreigners to exploit that. So that is like that is occurring.
Sure. So going back, just kind of come in here a bit, Alfred. I mean, do you see the HAARP as being a psychotronic weapon as well? So you talked a bit about this earlier on. I know kind of it has these physical effects on plates, but can it be used? Can the technology be used to kind of get into people's minds as well as a kind of mind control?
Yes, that's one of its principal uses, and I have listened to lectures. This was in Brisbane, Australia, by a former U.S. Department of Defense software engineer who designed the software that was broadcast by HAARP into people's dreams and into people's minds. So that's why you can have the footprint of HAARP be an entire continent or an entire global population, and just put them into fear or into anger or into apathy, and that's why you'll have episodes of road rage and riots, and and you can get people to do anything through these kind of mass manipulation techniques.
Yeah, sure. I know. Sorry, Alfred. I know you mentioned just now about Olympic Games and having these disasters go off around that to have kind of an emotional, psychological effect on the population. Now, what do you think about the 2012 Olympic Games? I mean, it is the great 2012 date that's it's on everyone's consciousness. Do you see some kind of something happening around that date in terms of technology being used? Of course, everywhere goes digital by 2012. So do you think there will be a big kind of operation to get inside people's minds using these psychotronic weapons?
The Olympics and other mass events are always used by the International War Crimes Racketeering Organization that controls the HAARP system, which is incidentally centered in the British monarchy, going back at least 300 years to the reign of George III, where the British monarchy and certain of the aristocrats first started the importation of drugs, opium from India to China, and brought back in the opium wars. Now they're commonly known as Dope Inc., i.e., this gang controls God, which is gold, oil, and drugs, and their latest weapon is HAARP. So they have manipulated and infiltrated national governments and use intelligence agencies as their sort of armies. CIA, MI5, MI6, NSA are all kind of the armies of this gang. And the gang, in turn, is manipulating